From Interior Alaska's most trusted news source, this is the Fbx Evening News.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Our top story this evening is from The Hill at the University of Alaska Fairbanks.
That's right. Joe Cook is joining us now to talk about the developments. Joe.
Thanks, Daryl and Stephanie. The NCAA handed down their punishment for eligibility infractions committed by UAF just over 10 o'clock this morning. The decision came down. The Nanniks will be banned from postseason play for this season in hockey, women's and men's basketball, and swimming. The department was also fined $30,000. This comes from eligibility infractions committed by UAF in the 2007-2008 academic year going to the 2011-2012 academic year. The Nanniks self-reported the infractions and also self-imposed sanctions in November of 2012. We'll have more on this later in sports, but for now, back to you.
Thank you, Joe. Wow, that is a big story from up on the Hill.
Absolutely. Okay, in other news this evening, 2 people have died in a head-on collision on Nordale Road near its intersection with Larry Lane. The crash involving a pickup truck and a sedan occurred at about 2:20 this afternoon. State troopers say 1 person in each vehicle died. 1 other person was hurt and taken to Fairbanks Memorial Hospital for treatment. The investigation is continuing.
A North Pole man accused of striking 2 people in the head with a golf club has pleaded not guilty. 28-year-old Shonda Shetler was indicted on upgraded charges by a grand jury last week. He now faces 2 counts of attempted murder and 4 counts of first-degree felony assault. According to court documents, the assault happened on October 19th at a party on Front Street in Fairbanks. 2 victims were found injured, 1 of them knocked unconscious. 1 female victim was medevaced to Providence Medical Center in Anchorage, where she was treated for bleeding on the brain as well as a fractured skull. Now, trial for DeShetler is scheduled to begin in January.
The National Transportation Safety Board has issued a ruling on the cause of a state trooper helicopter crash last year near Talkeetna. The board ruled the probable cause of Hilo 1's crash was pilot Mel Nading's decision to continue flight under visual flight rules into deteriorating weather, which resulted in the pilot's disorientation and loss of control. The accident killed Nading as well as Trooper Tage Toll and snow machiner Carl Ober, the injured man that had been picked up by the aircraft.
Continuing, it was a busy midterm election across the country yesterday, and Alaska was no different as the U.S. Senate race between incumbent Mark Begich and challenger Dan Sullivan headlined the state's general election. Jamie Schwartzwald has more.
Sullivan holds about an 8,000 vote lead over Begich with all precincts reporting. There are still uncounted absentee, early votes, and question ballots to be tabulated, which will not be done by the Division of Elections until next week. The Begich campaign is not conceding, putting out a statement today that read, quote, "Every Alaskan deserves to have their vote counted." Alaska's gubernatorial race is much closer, and the independent unity ticket of Bill Walker and Byron Malott holds about a 3,000 vote lead on the Republican ticket of incumbent Sean Parnell and Anchorage Mayor Dan Sullivan. In state legislative races, Democrats gained a seat for the Interior delegation. Democrat Adam Wohl, who joined the race after the primary, earned 52% of the vote to defeat incumbent Pete Higgins. Democrat Scott Kawasaki defeated challenger Greg Bringhurst to retain his District 1 seat, while party mate David Guttenberg defeated challenger Joe Blanchard in House District 4. Republican Tammy Wilson collected nearly 80% of the vote over Sharon Hunter to win District 3, while Steve Thompson garnered 68% of the vote to fend off a challenge from Larry Murakami in House District 2. Republicans took both Interior Senate seats as Pete Kelly gained 61% of the vote over challenger Tamara Rosales for seat A, and Click Bishop retained seat C by garnering 65% of the vote over Dorothy Shockley. 2 ballot measures were all 3 that were on Tuesday's ballot passed, including ballot measure 2, which legalized the recreational use of marijuana.
This is fantastic. The Alaskan people have decided that prohibition's failed, and not just here, but across the country. Oregon and D.C. have decided to go the same way that we have. It's fantastic that we're the first red state to do this, and I couldn't be happier, really. I mean, everyone has worked so hard on this, and I think the Alaskan people are a pretty smart bunch, and they realize that reefer madness just isn't true.
And we turn our attention now to weather. Mike Schultz is joining us with our first look. Mike.
Hey guys, a nice day across the interior. Again, we're looking at this pattern to continue right on through the weekend. Temperatures dropping down pretty chilly tonight, could be 15, 20 below in the lowest lying areas. And speaking of temperatures, here's what it looks like around the area right now. Pretty consistent, single digits everywhere. As you see, North Pole 2 degrees, Fairbanks 3. Fort Wainwright at 3, Arlington Air Force Base at 7, Delta Junction at 5, and out to the west we're looking at Nenana with 7 and Denali Park with 2. And the good news is the air quality we had problems with yesterday is out of the picture right now. We'll talk more weather, talk about all the weather in the lower 48 also, all that coming up later on. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Mike. Wow, those are pretty chilly temperatures. All right, well, when we come back, a hunter killed 2 bears near Kodiak, defending another man. Also, the weekly military is all about preparedness in our cold weather environments. Those stories are next. Stay with us. A Fort Wainwright soldier is facing felony charges after troopers say he impersonated law enforcement by attempting to pull over motorists. 19-year-old Jake Taylor Crane was charged with the single count of impersonating a public servant in the first degree, which is a Class C felony. An affidavit stated troopers received a report from a motorist whom Crane allegedly attempted to pull over on the Richardson Highway. Crane said he was a volunteer firefighter in the state of Texas, but couldn't provide a reason for why he was attempting to pull over motorists. Troopers said other drivers had phoned in with similar experiences and that Crane was believed to be acting as a police officer for several days. He was placed under arrest and the strobe emergency lights were confiscated. A Fairbanks man accused of sexually assaulting the mother of his child appeared in Fairbanks Superior Court yesterday afternoon. 35-year-old Jason Schurer, originally facing second-degree felony sexual assault, was indicted on reduced charges of third-degree assault, misdemeanor harassment, and drug misconduct. Schurer entered not guilty pleas on all charges. Court documents state that Schurer assaulted the mother of his child on October 19th. They further allege he hit the woman in the face, sexually assaulted her in front of a child, and then threatened to kill them both if they notified the police. Once on scene, police found marijuana in Schurer's pockets. Trial for his case was scheduled for January of 2015. Continuing, a Fairbanks man who authorities say shot at an apartment building was in Fairbanks Superior Court yesterday afternoon. 35-year-old Ray Tyrone Clemens is charged with second-degree weapons misconduct and reckless endangerment. According to police, the late October shooting was a drive-by. Now, they say Clemens intended to harm an unidentified victim who lived at the apartment on a street in Hamilton Acres. The two reportedly knew each other and were allegedly having a disagreement over several issues. Now, no injuries were reported and trial was scheduled for the beginning of next year. A hunter killed 2 bears near Kodiak in the process of defending a man who had been seriously injured in a mauling. The attack on 68-year-old Michael Snowden of Sitka occurred on Sally Island, located 30 miles west of Kodiak. Coast Guardsmen picked Snowden up and took him to the hospital for treatment of leg injuries. He had reportedly been attacked by a brown bear while deer hunting. His hunting partner, 38-year-old Jeff Ostrin of Washington State, killed the bear during the attack. While the two waited for help to arrive, another bear appeared, which Ostrin also put down. Alaska wildlife troopers determined that Snowden and Ostrin had come across a family of bears, including a sow and 2 large cubs. Soldiers with U.S. Army Alaska's 4th Infantry Brigade Combat Team conducted an emergency readiness exercise to evaluate response capabilities. Monty Bowen has more in this week's military report.
Operation Spartan Pegasus is an exercise designed to test the Arctic paratroopers' ability to plan and execute operations on short notice in cold weather environments.
Here today, we airdropped into a remote drop zone in northern Alaska. We got the mission that there was a simulated downed aircraft with some sensitive items and possibly a simulated deceased individual. We came in, our goal was to secure that objective within 2 hours of dropping, and we actually secured, recovered it, and started moving out of the objective in about 1 hour and 45 minutes, so well within the time limit of what was expected.
U.S. Army Alaska is the only command in the Army trained and equipped to provide extreme cold weather airborne forces support.
Very proud of what Able Company was able to accomplish today in the last 48 hours. Some long nights, minimal sleep, a lot of mission planning, and a lot of different missions that a company was able to accomplish, and the soldiers did very well.
The exercise was conducted at the Donnelly Training Area. This is Bonnie Bowen reporting.
The Military Report is brought to you by Stanley Nissan. Innovation for all.
Well, we've already seen Joe once this newscast,
yes,
but he'll be back with more on the NCAA's ruling on the UAF infractions.
He has that and more in sports after the break.
Hello, Interior Alaska. Joe Cook here with your Wednesday sports. Devastating news coming out of the UAF Alaska Natick Athletic Department this afternoon. The NCAA handed down their punishment for eligibility infractions committed by UAF. The Natics will be banned from postseason play for this season in hockey, women's and men's basketball, and swimming. The department was also fined $30,000 from the NCAA. The infractions, if you remember, were self-reported in November 2012, and UAF self-imposed sanctions. The major eligibility infraction was eligibility of pre-majors, which account for almost half of the total infractions. In 2008, UAF raised its admission requirements for baccalaureate degrees. If a student didn't meet that requirement, they were named pre-majors, but student athletes were not eligible until they were admitted to a degree program and lost that pre-major status. Eligibility infractions also include declaration of major, in which student athletes were taking baccalaureate level classes but did not file paperwork to declare a major. Since a specific degree was not declared, it made them ineligible. Progress towards degree and transfer credit requirements were the other infractions. Over 40 student athletes were found ineligible in 9 sports from the 2007-2008 season through 2011-2012. Chancellor Brian Rogers, Athletic Director Gary Gray, and Vice Chancellor for University and Student Advancement Dr. Mike Sfraga held a press conference today to explain an institutional error.
When we raised our admission standards to baccalaureate degrees and created this new pre-major, there was nothing in the NCAA rulebook about pre-major. So I think our staff just assumed that, well, we were meeting all the NCAA eligibility, so it was okay. They had not been trained to say it's the higher of the two. That was the institution's fault for not providing the training.
Get through this postseason ban, I think things will move on. We've got some great coaches. They're gonna just jump on this, and every game is you know, they're gonna go all out. There is no postseason play, so they're gonna make every game count all the way through the regular season.
Now UAF will be on probation for 3 years starting today. Wins, points, and individual stats will be vacated from the hockey, basketball, and swimming programs for games where ineligible players participated. Men's and women's basketball will lose 1 scholarship for the next 3 seasons. The swim team will lose 1.5 scholarships for the next 2 years. Hockey will lose a scholarship next year. UAF was given credit for its self-imposed loss of scholarship sanctions enforced in the self-report back in 2012. The Natics have made corrections since the self-report. They've hired a full-time academic advisor for players, provided training, and have a system of checks and balances in place. All this information and more specifics are all available on the sports page on webcenter11.com. And now we transition to high school hockey. The high school hockey season started last night out in North Pole at the Polar Ice Arena. The Patriots hosted the Monroe Rams in the Polar Ice Center for a non-conference game to open the 2014-2015 season for both teams. Monroe goalie Nate Jankowski was tested early on with shots right at the doorstep, but he made his share of stops. But that changed when Dylan Latham found the back of the net for the Patriots at the 12-12 mark, scoring the first goal for North Pole and the new season. 15 penalties in this one, 9 by Monroe, and James Lasalafi makes them pay in the first period, giving the Patriots a 2-0 lead with his power play tally. The Rams had some chances to score on breakaways, one by Dylan Steele, but McCoy Walker was unfazed. He made 13 saves last night. North Pole would run away in the second and third periods as Jason Donald, he scored 4 goals, and Lasalafi, he added 3 goals for his first career hat trick for the defenseman. Walker gets his first career shutout as well. North Pole wins 8-0 in the season opener.
Second period, you know, we just came out swinging. You know, we knew we had to skate hard and get them going, and we just had to put a few in the net, and that's what we did.
The guys in front did an amazing job keeping it out of the zone. Had a few breakaways, but seemed to save those pretty well. For the rest of that, had 2 little mistakes, and the team seemed to pull it together pretty well and do a great job.
Well, it was important. You know, we just want to come out and play our hardest and show people what we can do nowadays.
And the high school hockey season jump starts this week with Lathrop and West Valley headed down south to play some Anchorage teams. Lathrop will play West Anchorage, Diamond, and Colony for their 3-game roadie. West was last year's runner-up in the state tournament. The West Valley Wolfpack will face Service, South, the defending state champs, and Chugiak. Locally, the Hutchinson Hawks will host their Hitman tournament at the Patty Center. It starts tomorrow and runs through Saturday. Games are at 3:15 and 5 p.m. The tournament round-robin field includes Greatland teams like Glen Allen, Delta, Monroe, and of course, Hutch. Now we end the Wednesday Sportscast with this week's Pro Football Challenge winner. The Week 9 winner is Billy Boy, 50-50. Congrats, Billy Boy. You get an oil change courtesy of Stanley Nissan. Billy Boy picked 12 of 13 games correct. Now going to week 10, here are the PFC standings. There's now a four-way tie for first place at 91 points. Dellengrud is second with 90. And there's also a four-way tie for third place at 89 points. Mike Schultz and I are still tied at 81 points. Don't forget to go online at Webster11.com and make your picks for week 10. Thursday night's NFL matchup is Cleveland versus Cincinnati. And that'll do it for sports tonight. Mike Schultz is next with your weather forecast, and we'll catch you next time.
Well, welcome back into Wednesday night's edition of the newscast, and Mike Schultz with you once again talking about weather. We talked about earlier, lots of sunshine. That's no end in sight for that all the way through the weekend. And cool temperatures are going to prevail, but they're going to warm up through the weekend. That's good news. And some other good news. Today we are releasing our weather calendar for 2015. You can pick it up at many locations around the interior, including places like Fix-It and Driven Auto. And we'll be talking about that every night. And it's got some great photographs, and you want to check it out, and they're all free. How about that? All right, here's your photograph for night. We call these ice pillars. If you have not seen them around town, when there's ice crystals out at night, the reflection of the beams of light goes straight up, and they are just magnificent to watch. As you can see here, multicolored too. Again, thanks to Alicia Levy for that photograph. And as always, if you have a photograph to share, by all means, send it to photos at ktvf11.com. Here's your numbers on the almanac. Today's high was 12, low last night 3. The record high was 39 in 1935, record low 41 below in 1907. Sunrise about 8:57 this morning, sunset at 4:13 this afternoon, giving us 7 hours and 16 minutes of daylight, a loss of 6 minutes from yesterday. On our satellite and radar, not a whole lot to affect the interior again. As you see, the flow is mainly moving off to the west. More rain and wind across southeast Alaska, but the north of the Alaska Range, it continues very, very nice weather. Clear skies and, of course, the cold temperatures. Now, elsewhere across the state, as you can see, we're looking at more rain falling across southeast Alaska. Juneau at 42, Ketchikan 47. Kodiak, some showers there. Not too bad in Anchorage, 32 degrees. Cloudy skies along the Aleutian chain. Up and down the west coast, mainly clear to partly cloudy skies. Clouds around the Barrow area, 13 degrees. Only 1 degree for the high at Fort Yukon today with cloudy skies. Lower 48 weather looks like this. And more rain continues to fall across the Pacific Northwest, but it's nice and sunny over the southwest into the central sections of the country. Some showers around the New Orleans area, also showers over the northeast around New York, and not too bad in Miami, 82 degrees there. On our satellite and radar, the rain that was falling across the central areas yesterday moving off to the east, another storm system moving across the Great Lakes, and of course the steady flow of moisture moving across the Pacific Northwest, bringing that rain in. And warm temperatures are expanding across much of California. In fact, I talked to my son today in California, 90 degrees there this afternoon, down around the Anaheim area, and that will continue right on through the weekend the way it looks right now. As you can see here, the jet stream will continue to bring warm air in, but cooler air across the eastern half of the country all the way down to the Gulf Coast states. Back to Alaska for tomorrow. Here's the northern sections, winds and clouds for Barrow. Mostly sunny skies in Nome and Fort Yukon. And over the interior, looking at another nice day once again. Lots of sunshine for Fairbanks, partly cloudy skies for Delta Junction, and sunny skies at Healy. Over the southeast, rain will continue. Rain showers likely at Juneau. Heavier rain for the Ketchikan area. While over to the southwest, it looks like for the most part mixed showers for Cold Bay, rain for Kodiak Island, and mostly sunny skies for the Bethel area. And if you head on down to the Anchorage area, we're looking at, again, partly cloudy skies at Anchorage, mostly cloudy skies at Homer and Valdez. Okay, time once again for our kids' weather. All this week we've been talking with the kids from Denali Elementary School. Tonight, here's a young man with a question for me.
Hi, my name is Kason. I am in Miss Wallace's 4th grade class. I go to Denali Elementary School. And my question for the weatherman is, how do you figure out what happens and what do you use to figure it out?
I've been asked this many times before, but the main ingredients are satellite pictures, computer prognostications, talking with the guys up there at the Weather Service up on the hill. The best one I have is looking outside before I go on the air to make sure it's not raining or snowing. That always works pretty good. Again, thanks to Mount McKinley Bank for sponsoring our kids' weather. And tomorrow night, the teacher will be here with a fact about the planets. You'll want to check that out. Here's your forecast for the remainder of the night. Scattered high clouds, cold temperatures, 8 below at the airport, but much colder in the low-lying areas, and you might see some auroras. There's a fairly decent chance of seeing those. Tomorrow's forecast looking at 10 above, lots of sunshine, but warmer in the hills, getting a little bit of an inversion going on. And the extended forecast, as you can see here, no snow in the forecast. Temperatures warming up very nicely for the weekend, up to the mid to upper 20s. Overnight lows will also be warming too, as you can see, looking at daytime highs, overnight lows, just say 13 to 15 degrees by Monday and Tuesday. But again, no snow in the forecast. How about that?
Good news.
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Mike. And that will wrap up this edition of the Fbx Evening News. From all of us here at the News Center, we hope to see you back here at 11.
All right.